Thanks for coming on back to Modern Day Debate.
You know how you can always tell when it's going to probably be a spicy debate is when everybody has a very wrapped up, tight opening statement because they just want to get at each other and get right in the meat of things. I always like that, right? I should bloviate for 9 minutes and waste everybody's time, though, just to be a dick. But I'm not. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I will say to Pep Talks TV, it does seem like you are paying attention, trying to be good faith. Just remember that because we have a differing view than you, that doesn't mean that we hate trans people or what, you know what I mean? That's not actually what that means. This is the rhetoric of the Democrats that if you don't believe, you hate. So my opener, again, very brief. The they, them, we, us, Zer, zi, pers want us to believe the dumbest thing on earth. That is that the zi, per, zer is a category which conveys something that isn't complete gibberish. You see, in order to be a Z, they, Zizer, you must simply feel as a Zer, Zizer would feel. What does that feel like? Who knows? Because even if you have the exact same behavior pattern as every Zer, Zi, per on planet Earth, if you identify as a they, them, or we, us, the Zizers or Z, pers have to admit you are one of the they, thems, or we, us's and not a Zizer per Z, right? Here is what this means. It just means that the category of gender doesn't really tell us any information that we can follow coherently. Imagine if we had a chart, like a genderbread chart. And this chart had every category behavior of what is female and what is male, which, of course, that genderbread chart couldn't have. And it couldn't have it because you can't actually make a chart like that. But if such a thing could exist, let's say theoretically, um, then I would just kind of like to know what would it be pointing at? What's it pointing at on either end of the spectrum? It's going to be pointing to male. It's going to be pointing to female. When you say there's a spectrum, what's on either end of this spectrum, right? It's a binary. And so what they do is they put a decimal point inside the binary and try to pretend like this creates some sort of spectrum where there isn't one. Okay. Imagine if we had this chart and this could exist. This technically could exist. It can't. It can't exist. And I'll explain why. This gentleman who's, you can see him doing like the destiny triangles. He can't really tell you what's going to belong inside of this list. Like if a man wears a dress, does that make him more of a woman? He would say, well, yeah, sure. If he feels like it. If a man has a purse, does that make him more of a woman? Well, sure. If he feels like that. If a woman is wearing pants, does that make her more of a man? Well, sure, if she feels like that. Meaning that you can have somebody who has every single one of these categories, right? And says, I don't feel like that, and they aren't. Or a person who has every single one of those categories and says, I do feel like that, and they aren't. That's why it makes no sense. It's complete gibberish. Imagine, for instance, they say trans rights, right? Pep Talks TV says trans rights aren't human rights. When somebody says that, it makes Pep Talks upset. But why? Why? You're talking about a fictitious category, not people. So, like, your opponents aren't talking to you about a category that they believe is even real. When we say, so this is where you live in what's called equivocation, right? You both of you live in equivocation. Because you believe that this categorization is real, you say that that's a proper human category. And we just basically say, but wait, that's not a proper human category. We still see these people as human. We just don't see that category as being valid. That's where the great equivocation comes in. They say gender is a spectrum. Gender and sex is an oversimplification, or shouldn't be an oversimplification. That's what the genderbread, which, by the way, they don't even use the genderbread anymore because it's outdated. And here's some of the reasons why it's outdated. He says an oversimplification or can't be an oversimplification. Remember, inside the nuance, what he really is claiming here is that it's just a feeling. Gender is a feeling. That's it. Well, but then he goes on to say, but it's very nuanced and complex. Well, no, the fuck it isn't. It's just how I feel. Now, but if you say that, it opens you up to all sorts of ridicule, right? For instance, if I say, oh, well, I don't feel that you're that thing you feel like you are. Why am I wrong? Well, because I don't feel like you should feel like I shouldn't feel that way, right? It leaves you open to all sorts of criticisms that make zero sense, right? They say a person's inner opinion about themselves is what he says for the genderbread theory. There is no wrong answer, he says. So there can't be a wrong answer then about how I identify them. That can't be wrong. Do you understand? Like, if you say there's no wrong way, remember in his opening statement, quote, it's a person's interfeeling opinion about themselves. There's no wrong answer. Then there can't be a wrong answer about how I feel about their identity. Do you understand? It's the same thing. Gender doesn't have to match sex, he says. Well, yes, it does, because these are the two ends we're using for actually making these categorizations to begin with. They say sex is a spectrum, but then he goes on and he makes a massive mistake. And this is one of the reasons why the genderbread theory should be thrown out. He says that there's three sexes. No, there isn't. There's no, and he'll never find a credible scientific source anywhere that'll ever call intersex a third sex. That's insanity. There is no third sex. Intersex isn't a sex. It refers to variations in a sex and it isn't a sex category in and of itself. It never has been. It's never been classified as one, and it still isn't. It's an umbrella term. Like, for instance, men who have their testicles shriveled due to external conditionals can be considered intersex. They're still men, right? You can't say it's a third sex. And by the way, that would bring up all sorts of problems for you if you even thought that, right? Could the third sex only breed with the third sex? Can the third sex breed with both of the other sexes? Who can the third sex have kids with? Can the third sex, oh, you know what I mean? Like, that makes no sense. They would still fall under a sex binary category for reproduction. That's why it can't be a third sex classification. That is the stupidest fucking thing that I've heard in weeks, postulated by Will, who didn't take 5 seconds to look into whether or not intersex was a sex. I want credible scientific biological classifications for intersex, which make it an actual third sex. Because to my knowledge, there's ova and there is sperm, meaning there's small gametes and there's large gametes. That's it. Is there like a medium gamete? Is there a medium gamete somewhere in there that we could classify as the third sexual gamete? That's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Will? By the way, this is why they stopped using that genderbread man in mainstream trans apologetics. You must be like out of date by a couple of years on your trans apologia, Will, because they don't even use this anymore, bro. Because of these various problems, you should get like the genderbread man 3.0 update version for trans apologia. So just pointing that out. With that, I do think it is important to be completely fair. These guys haven't been assholes yet. We're not going to be assholes to them yet, as long as they stay not being assholes. But I do think it's fair if they want to move outside even the domain of this debate of are there only two genders and get into things like transports and things like this. But we better clear up some of this stuff first to just make sure we're not even talking past each other. Because when somebody says there's a third sex, that to me sounds like the equivalent of aliens just landed on planet Earth. I mean, that is real serious breaking fucking news, ladies and gentlemen. That is something which is like an outlandishly crazy claim to say there's a third human sex, and I can't wait to hear all about it. So with that, I will yield my time over. Appreciate it.
All right, 1 minute left on the floor, so we'll end the timer there. We're going to go into an open discussion, but do want to remind the audience who's watching right now, if you haven't had an opportunity to, because it's very difficult, smash the like button, it's just waiting for you. I also put up a poll in the live chat, are there more than two genders? So let's see where that's at. 17 to 83 right now for no, so 83% on the no side. So keep your votes coming in. Let us know what you think about our debate topic tonight. And also we are going to do super chats at the end, so if you want to ask a question to one of our speakers, like many of the people have already, put it into a super chat and we will ask them out at the end of the debate. With that, I'm going to set a 15-minute timer and I'll check in with you guys as long as things are moving along cogently. I'm going to hand it back over to Pep Talks to respond to some of what you just heard, and also Will, and then feel free to jump in there, Andrew and Speakeasy.
Well, can I just ask an opening clarifier, right?
Sure.
To Will. Will, who can the third sex reproduce with? Like, who can because I would think that if you say
question.
The sex can reproduce with the opposite sex, then that infers a binary. So who can the third sex have sex with and have kids?
All right. So appreciate the question. So intersex is a term that is used to describe someone whose sexual and reproductive autonomy does not fit into the typical definitions of female or male. That is what intersex means.
Yeah, that's an umbrella term. It's not a third sex, though.
That is what. You don't want to call it a sex?
No.
No,
you called it a third sex. I want to know how.
Perhaps you didn't like the way I used that term. That's fine.
How do you use that term where it means something other than
it means
sex that's not male or female?
It means your genitalia or your chromosomes do not match what you typically associate with male or female. That's what it means.
Yeah. So a deformity would be intersex?
If you want to call it a deformity, I'm not gonna
like if you were born,
but
if you were born
and
match. Okay, so if a horse kicks you in the balls and rips off your penis and your balls, are you now a third sex or not, Will?
Well, that depends on what you want to define sex as.
What the fuck do you mean? It depends.
Wait, I mean, if you were in Game of Thrones, technically,
technically
they
hold
did.
Hold on a second, Will.
Sex,
hold
Andrew.
on, Will. I do want to let Pep in here as well. So over to you, Pep.
I was just saying, in Game of Thrones, technically they did treat the ones that had their dick and balls ripped off as like a third sex, like what they call. God, I forgot what they call them.
A eunuch.
A eunuch, yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, that was technically a third sex right there.
Not a third sex. So
kinda.
Here's what you're saying.
Think about it. It's putting them in their own category at that point, and it's like
it's not its own category. It's now a man. It's now a man who has lost his penis and balls.
Yeah, but he says it himself that he doesn't consider himself a man anymore in that way.
No. They don't say that they don't consider themselves men anymore.
He did. He did. The spider did.
Andrew, do you define sex based on genitalia?
Hang on. Listen, Will, 1 second. Let us have our exchange. I promise we can get back into it. But I'm not going to interrupt you with your crosstalk with Speakeasy either. So just real quick on this. Do you agree with me, Pep Talks, that if a dude gets kicked in the balls by a horse and it rips off his penis and his balls, he does not become a third sex?
No, I don't agree with that.
Wait, you don't agree with it?
No, what I'm saying is I don't agree that that automatically makes them a third sex. I think that not having your dick and balls, that doesn't mean anything.
So what makes you a third sex?
Well, have like hermaphroditic tendon stuff.
Hermaphrodites aren't a third sex.
Is that not classified as a third sex?
Nope. Not even chimeras. No, not even chimeras.
See, I'm not.
I'll explain it to you.
This, so I don't know.
Hang on, I'll explain it to you. Well, it's not obsession to just know what the fuck you're talking about when you take a position on something.
Fair
right?
enough.
So even when it comes to like chimerism or things like this, it is true that this would be ambiguous, but you only have two developmental pathways, reproductive pathways, only two. And let me explain how I know that that's true, because nobody on planet Earth can impregnate themselves. Right. If you had two viable reproductive pathways, you could impregnate yourself, and nobody can.
I heard a story about this when I was like 10 years old.
And there's all sorts. Hang on, there's all sorts of tales out there about people who possibly could have or things like this. It can't be done. You cannot have, because the human body only has so much space for so many organs, and you only have two reproductive pathways you can go down. Only one of the two is ever going to be viable. That's why sex is a binary. It has to be.
Wait, so
hang on. Let me finish, and I'll answer. I'm almost done.
Hold on. Let's let Andrew put a bow on it. We have to let them
finish the point
as well.
So really simple. Okay. There's only two developmental pathways for sex. There's no third pathway for sex. I would agree with you. If there was a third developmental pathway for sex, I would say there could be three sexes. But because there's only two developmental pathways, there can only be two sexes. You can have ambiguity inside of those two pathways.
These developmental pathways, and I keep saying, thinking,
you can only ever impregnate the opposite sex. You can't ever impregnate somebody who's not that.
Yeah, but
so there's only two pathways.
The just basic sex and gender thing. So again, this is based on like the identity part of it, where it's kind of like, see, I'm all about just respecting people, whatever they want to be called. Like, because I go back to when I was like in kindergarten, and the first time that somebody said, "Hi, my name's Timmy," and I didn't call them Jimmy, kind of thing. It's kind of a simple respect issue.
Yeah, but you can't. Okay, and I think that's fair to say, but it's unfair to say. Well, I'm here to talk about the identity basis of this, which is fine. But then don't make claims about sex. Don't make claims about there being a third sex. Like,
again, this is where I wasn't trying to like be bad faith in my joke. I was actually being kind of a little serious. You guys are more focused on this, way more than like any leftist content creators. I can tell you
bullshit.
that right.
Give me a break. Would
no,
you like
for
the
real,
list
man.
of
Like, no,
leftists?
you made
Here we go.
made debate
Vosh,
them, but I can
Destiny, Demon Mall. I mean, dude, I can literally name so many content creators who are obsessed with this.
You're using three people that have literally been ostracized by the leftist community. Like,
they haven't been ostracized by the leftist community. Destiny was your fucking rock star until he diddled the wrong piddle and sent out the wrong video. He was your fucking rock star last fucking
you're talking
week.
to the
Shut
wrong
up.
guy
That's
on that
bullshit.
one. No, I never. I was never.
Just 1 second there, guys. Let's wheel it back in. So Speakeasy, you were trying to jump in there on the point. So go ahead.
Oh no, it's just when he said about like, oh, I just want to respect people. So like, if people want you to call them master or king, you're gonna do this too. Is that what you're saying?
No, dude.
It's not very respectful.
Why don't you respect
Call me king, baby.
The rest of the debate, I would like you to call me master.
Hold on. Actually, if that's your name, Speakeasy, then maybe. I mean, I have met some people that have some weird ass names, and if, like, I would feel like I'll say this.
I want you to call me master. All right.
Well, hold on. I'll say this. I'll just ask you at that point, just because I want to be consistent in my values. I'll just be like, all right, show me your legal ID that now says that your name is Master. I will call you Master.
No, it's my identity. It's my identity.
Show me on your identity where it says Zer.
See, I thought that's where I was muted. No, I always thought the Zer stuff was always ridiculous, and I thought it was.
But that's how they want to be identified, bro. That's how they want to be identified.
Yeah, but it's nothing that is ever really brought up, like, outside of these little debates. I got to be complete. Like, dude, I'm coming from a perspective of lived experiences. Like, I have a lot of, like, I have one friend specifically that is one of my best friends. I'm literally going through this with her where I see the hate. I see the blatant hatred, and I see how she's treated differently. I see exactly what she's worried about right now, and it's not fair, man. Like, I don't like second-class citizenry. That's why
not second-class citizenry. Like, if you, let me ask you this: like, if you said to me, "Listen, affirm I'm the Queen of France, or I'm going to kill myself," right? Should I affirm that you're the Queen of France?
How convicted is this person?
They're very convicted.
Yeah, well, I mean, does it hurt you to say it?
Can you answer my question without asking me one?
Well, I mean, no, then, because honestly,
no. Why?
Because it costs you nothing to say that to save somebody's life.
So you should affirm the delusion of somebody, reaffirm the untruth.
To save their life? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so hang on. So in this case, would you roll out a red carpet, put a robe on them every morning?
Why do you think that's what's happening? See, you guys
like,
you do this weird conflation.
Can you answer my question?
William, I'll let you take over.
No, William, let's not let you take over until we're done with our inquiry.
He's done talking, and he's handing it over to me.
Okay, got it. So we can't finish our exchange.
Andrew. So it is not a.
I'm sorry, I can't answer any of your questions. I'm going to have to turn it over to Speakeasy. My bad.
A gender is a
I have to turn it over to Speakeasy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
gender
take
is
over.
purely
psychological. Call me master, please.
I can't answer any of your questions. Speakeasy has to take over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. So
gender is purely psychological. Okay. Gender is purely psychological. It is something that exists in the mind. It is not a delusion. It is an opinion. It is just as real as your favorite color. And you cannot be wrong about your favorite color, right?
Okay. What's a delusion?
A delusion is something that doesn't exist, that you believe does exist. Now, your opinions.
Wait. That's what you just said. Wait. Your opinions.
Opinions exist.
Okay.
Right?
So if it's your opinion, you're the Queen of France. It's true.
Queens are real, measurable constructs.
How do you measure a queen?
It is a intersubjective aspect of our society. We know.
Yeah,
what
that's
a queen
not
is.
telling me how you measure what a queen is. How do you measure it?
Okay, you know what a queen is. I'm not going to explain to you what a queen is.
No, I need you to explain to me what a queen
gender
is
a specifically an identity.
Yeah, I don't
something
know.
that
stop running away,
manifested
dude.
in your mind.
You're just running.
Just hold on a second there, Andrew.
A queen is
make his point.
A title.
A queen is a title. How do you objectively measure what a queen is?
Objectively, you don't, because it's an intersubjective reality. It's an intersubjective reality that we all agree upon. It is very different than a gender identity. It is very different than a gender identity.
How is it different?
We don't always all agree about what gender identity means.
We don't always all agree on what a queen is.
That's why it's intersubjective. Yes.
Right. So then this would also be intersubjective.
Yes. Yeah, it's
so then you just defeated your own argument. That makes no sense. You said
intersubjectivity is something that you cannot measure.
Let me steel man.
Well,
I'll steel man it. I'll steel man it so you know I don't get it wrong. He says, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that this is different than if you affirm that you're a queen is, first he says, because you can measure it. right? I say, you can. How do you measure what a queen is? He says, well, you can't because it's intersubjective. And I say, well, wait a second. This also sounds intersubjective. He says, no, it's not. And then 5 seconds later says, no, you're right. It is intersubjective. Can't be measured either. So it's just an affirming opinion. So when he says it's not delusional, he would have to admit, because it's intersubjective, that if you claimed you were a queen, that wasn't delusional.
Okay. So
why would that be delusional?
A gender identity is about your own perception about yourself. It cannot be wrong.
Like I'm a
it
queen?
Cannot be wrong. No.
Why am I not a queen?
Well, you can believe you're a queen. That's fine.
What makes it wrong?
It's not wrong because you're not using the legal
Then it's
term.
the same
Andrew,
criteria.
just real quick, I want to ask, do you like tell 5-year-olds that they're not Spider-Man?
Hang on. Do you understand that then you're giving me the same criteria twice and saying one is a delusion, one is not, but not the threshold breaker for what makes one the delusion and one not?
One is, so hold on. An intersubjective reality is something we all agree upon that we have in existence.
We don't all agree on intersubjective reality, or it wouldn't be intersubjective.
No, it can be intersubjective and us all agree upon it.
Yeah, it can be intersubjective and we all agree, but you said intersubjective means we all agree. That's not the case.
Right. Okay. The main point I'm making is gender identity is the way you think about yourself on the inside. That is real. That is your identity. That is how you feel, right?
Yeah, I'm a queen. That's how I feel.
Okay, you can feel that way. It doesn't mean you have the power of a queen.
Okay, well, wait a second. What would make that a delusion, though? It doesn't mean you are a woman because you feel like a woman.
Well, let's define a queen, right? A queen is someone who has power. A queen is someone who has rules over.
No, you can be a queen. The Emperor Napoleon was in Alba, had no power. He was still an emperor.
Napoleon from France?
Yeah, Napoleon Bonaparte.
He had a lot of power.
He didn't have any power when he was in exile on an island.
Okay, he wasn't a. It wasn't.
Yes, you can have kings. You can also have kings who have no power who are prisoners. So you can have kings who have no power who are just born and have no power. How can somebody who's a crowned king just born have power? How do they exercise power, sir?
This is a silly argument. So
no, what's silly about it?
This is silly.
What's silly about it?
If kings have power, the fact that you're trying to stretch the argument to genetics is really
how much power? Like, am I the king of my house?
Dude, you're just going off your own argument.
Because you're making up definitions.
You're so far off base.
Yeah, you're trying to make an arbitrary definition.
That's an assertion. Here's my argument.
It's not an assertion when literally you're off.
If I say that I'm the queen, if I say I'm a queen, you say that's delusional. Yes. I want the metrics for what makes that delusional, but if I identify as a sex that I'm not, that's not.
No, I'm dead serious now. Do you think that when kids say they're Spider-Man that they're delusional?
No.
Like, seriously?
No.
Then what is your problem?
Well, wait.
Queen has a well-defined
definition. Imagination, right? If
yeah,
jump off the roof, I wouldn't tell the kid, yeah, you're Spider-Man.
But they're wrong. I would tell the kid they're wrong.
Queen is a defined term that has specific attributes. Right? It has to do with either, if you really want to bring it down to genetics, then
but it's intersubjective. The attributes can be whatever you want them to be because it's intersubjective.
That's true, but in our world, in our definition, we have all agreed upon general.
No, we haven't all agreed
about queen.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know what a queen is.
I don't know what you call a queen and why I couldn't be one if I wanted to be.
You can't think of what a queen is, what any attribute a queen has. You can't do that?
Sure. What does that have to do with anything?
That's the difference.
Why are they not?
I can think of all sorts of attributes a woman has, and that's how I could tell you're not one.
That's no. A queen.
That's the same argument, bro.
Queens have physical rule.
Yeah,
society,
so do females. Yeah, that's correct. Females also have. In fact, I would say there's more agreement on what a woman is than what a queen is. Intersubjectively.
An identity is how you think about yourself. A queen is not something you think about yourself because queens have physical manifestations in reality other than just it being in your mind, right? Queen is not a identity that you have in your mind. And
neither is your sex. That's not just an identity you have in your mind.
So do any identities just exist in your mind, Andrew?
Are they just constructs of the mind?
Yes.
Some.
Okay, so they can exist.
But that's not what's in dispute.
Yeah, of course it is. That's
what's in dispute. What's in dispute is what makes an identity delusional or not.
No. But we agree that some identities can exist solely in the mind and not in the physical world around us, right?
Yeah, I would say that there's all sorts of things we could identify or classify.
Now, one of those things is called gender identity.
Yeah, but what makes a thing which you classify as an identity in your mind delusional? What would make it that?
It's not delusional.
I didn't ask you what is delusional. I said what would make a thing in your mind a delusion.
I understand.
What?
Okay. It's when you believe something that
doesn't correspond with reality.
Yes.
Okay, great. You, if you're a male and you claim that you're a woman, and the way that I categorize these things, along with the rest of most of humanity intersubjectively, is that a woman means adult female, then you have just refuted your own argument, sir, because what you're stating is very simply that, hey, this doesn't correspond with reality. If indeed hang on, if I grant your argument, though, you still destroy it. And here's how. Because even if I grant that what you're saying is true, then that would mean that a queen then does correspond with reality just as much as gender does, as long as it's your own self-identification.
No, queen has physical manifestations outside of their own mental
so
capacity.
Does woman. So does woman.
Incorrect. When you're talking
incorrect.
about the context, when you're talking about the context of a gender identity, you're incorrect. If you're talking about the context of a gender expression, you might be more on the correct side of things. And if you're talking about anatomical sex, then you are very much.
Oh, well, help me out here then. I'm sorry. What's a gender expression pointing at?
A cultural acception of a certain type of gender.
And that type of gender is utilizing the attributes of one of two sexes. Is that right?
No.
It's not?
No, it doesn't have to correspond with a sex. No.
Then how do we know whether or not, or which is male or which are female attributes?
It's a cultural accepted feeling. It's a cultural accepted opinion. It's
an what are those cultures pointing at, though?
An intersubjective reality.
Yeah, but what are they pointing at? They're pointing at man and woman, right?
Right.
Like if you play, if you play with dolls, right?
The stereotype,
and that's considered feminine, right?
It is.
Okay,
it is.
And so when I say it's considered feminine, what am I pointing at?
The intersubjective reality that we've constructed.
What I'm pointing at the behavior this sex has.
It is intersubjective reality. That you're pointing at an intersubjective reality that we have constructed as a society. That's what you're pointing at.
That's not what's in dispute.
Which is a stereotypical.
It's not what's in dispute. Why are you arguing things we're not disputing?
Women.
Here, let me explain what's in dispute. What's in dispute here is just this. I'm going to concede a whole bunch of your points because they're irrelevant. Okay, so let's get through the concessions very quickly first, so that we can get back to the topic. I will concede the point that intersubjective realities not only are possible but happen all the time. There's no doubt about it. What we're talking about is what makes one delusional, an intersubjective reality. It can't just be agreement, because if that's the case, then the only thing that makes you delusional is that most of us agree you are. But you said, no, that's not the case. It has to actually be something which just doesn't correspond with reality. What I'm saying to you is that any of the things that you consider to be gender attributes or conditionals for gender are actually pointing at sex, and that's where they get the feminine, masculine portion to associate gender to begin with. So we are pointing at something. You see what I'm saying? Because we're pointing at those things, that's not intersubjective now. Now we're talking about biological correspondence with reality. So that's how I can make the same determination you can about delusion. You would have to agree that's true.
So I think I see maybe some disconnection here. I think it'd be helpful if you were more persistent on labeling what you're talking about as gender identity versus gender expression. Gender expression points to an intersubjective reality we have constructed. Gender identity does not point to an intersubjective reality.
So you don't have to have any expression for gender?
No.
Then it's just I am this, so I am?
In your mind, yes. For gender identity.
So how would that correspond with reality?
Gender identity does not correspond with reality outside of what is in your own mind.
There we go.
Outside of what is in your own mind.
If it doesn't
attribute.
correspond with reality, exit whatever you decide in your own mind, right? Then you've just determined it's a delusion.
It's not a delusion at all. It's a psychological
manifestation. Then what is a delusion?
It's a psychological attribute of your mind.
Then what's a delusion?
It's like you're saying me liking the color red is a delusion because or it's my favorite color is a delusion because favorite colors don't exist in reality.
No, that's
favorite colors don't exist. You can't measure favorite colors.
You guys
this actually
a
terrible argument that makes my point for me.
Sorry, you guys were riffing. It might be a good idea, though, if you guys want to give some final thoughts on this, and then we can move into some of those social issues that you guys were discussing earlier, such as bathrooms and sports. So you guys can pick your poison, but maybe if you want to
hard to get past this.
If you guys,
this is really important.
You guys can keep riffing if you'd like to. I'm just kind of wheeling it out there for our audience, but
you want variety.
Let us know in the audience what you'd like to hear.
While
they smack that like button.
I have a quick question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what Will is saying here. So you're saying with my identity, I could be a woman and still look exactly like I do right now. And you should respect me and say I'm a woman. Is that what you're saying? And I'm also a man. So my gender expression is a man and I'm a woman. So I'm a woman man.
Yeah, it's just a mind state.
Your gender expression
at that point, isn't it just
can be
drag?
masculine. Your gender expression can be masculine, and your gender identity can be a woman. That is correct. You can be a masculine woman. You can be a I said you can be a masculine woman. Listen to what I'm saying.
I'm just wondering.
Then I'll even for the sake of argument grant this just to wreck this too. If that is the case, Will, if it is the case that it's just an idea of a mind state, and so there can't be any untruth to it. It's just
Identity.
my mind state.
Yes.
It's just my mind state of identity. Would you agree then that something like Christianity would be that as well?
Yes.
Okay. And the Christian mind state is to make determinations about what are men and women. That is our mind state. It's part of our ethos. So if that's the case, hang on, Will, hang on, Will. So if that's the case, Will, that this is just a mind state, then this also is true. Christianity is true, just like this is true because of the mind state. So if that is the case, and Christians say, well, you're not a woman, they can't be fucking wrong. They can't.
So you can't be wrong because in your mind, that is what you've constructed. You're right. Just how a gender identity cannot be wrong.
So tell me why Christians are supposed to call these people men and women if they can't be wrong about
actually.
Not doing
hold on, I will step in on this one. No, because no, Andrew, hold on. How come Christians expect us to respect their religious views, especially like widely in this country?
Because it's a mind state, and you got to do what we say.
No. I mean, I know you're being cheeky here, but no, come on.
No,
man.
I'm not being cheeky. Either Andrew, you respect me being a Christian, or I'm going to kill myself.
Andrew, I don't think you understand.
Now do it. I want God.
You don't understand respect.
I want God on the dollar bill, or I'm going to kill myself. I want prayer in school, or I'm going to kill myself. Yeah, I want the affirmation of my religion, or I'm going to fucking kill myself.
So you see,
hang on, stop, bro.
Is your name Pep Talks?
Is your name Pep Talks, bro?
I can discuss anything.
Can I finish my combo with him? Can I finish my combo?
I don't want to put people on 2v2, bud.
Yeah, I know. And can we at least get that 1v1 part of the 2v2?
You've been talking like
guys. I'm just the COVID spectator here.
I do want to give them a chance to have their back and forth. I'm sorry to put you on mute there, Will. It's just too much crosstalk. So I do want Andrew to have a chance to engage with what Pep had asked there, just because Pep hasn't had a lot of time on the.
No, actually, I do mean that though, because I came from religion, and I can tell you right now, in my religion, in the evangelical sect that I came from, we definitely pressed like, dude, missionaries, all of it. It was the entire mission was about going and converting people, and it was because we viewed them as, oh, you're sinners, you're not saved. So we were putting our belief system on them. I turned around and said, okay, that's just inherently wrong. So I understand kind of where you're coming from. Like if this was being shoved down your throat the way that you claim it is, but it just isn't.
Well, hang on, Pep Talk. Let me respond. I'm going to pass it over to Speakeasy. Will's right. Me and him have had most of the engagement. I agree with that. But the thing is, bro, it's like, this is really simple. Just think about what you've actually stated here. You said, if somebody said that they were a queen and you didn't believe them, right, you would still treat them as a queen, right? Because if you didn't, they'd kill themselves. That's what Pep Talk said. No, it is. You can rewind the tape. Will, do you want to bet me $100 bucks? You can
clip it all you want, dude. But in the context of
$100?
somebody standing on a bridge saying that they're going to off themselves, and I just happen to be walking by, and they're just like, "Call me the Queen of England now." But and they have like even worse. Then they have a gun to their head.
So then what you're saying, hang on, Pep Talks. Then what you're saying is this: if there's a school, right, or where 13 Christian kids all put guns to their head and say we want prayer in school, or else, are you going to do it? Pep Talks. Are you gonna give them prayer in school?
Well, I can't give them prayer in school. You're asking me something that's solely
No,
hold on, Andrew. This is the bullshit argument that I'm going to call out real quick. What you just did there is you pivoted to something that's so unrealistic from a situation that is totally realistic. You could totally run it. Hold on, just stop. You can run into somebody that is going through something like that, and then you can just make a capitulation, even if it is, giving into their delusion at that time. I don't care what it is. If it's saving that one person's life at that time, I don't see the problem with that.
Okay, so then here's the thing. First of all, a hypothetical doesn't need to be realistic. It only needs to align.
I understand that, but you're playing in it.
Bro, I didn't interrupt you. Just let you talk.
Sorry, you're right.
So the idea here is, if it is the case that 13 Christian students said prayer in the school or else, and you are the unilateral dictator of the United States, are they going to get
if I have that kind of power, then yeah, sure.
Then they can pray.
School?
They're going to pray in school?
No, but
no,
okay,
so if they say all schools.
No, all schools?
Yeah.
Greater good, buddy. Bye.
Oh, so then they would all go for the greater good. So then I got to ask you something. If more than half of the world's population, well, actually, it's far more. 70% of the world's population is religious, and
I hope I'm engaging in this.
Yeah, if 70% of the world's population is religious, right? Then, by your very harm definition, there that it causes them harm by affirming this, then you shouldn't actually push for it because you're causing harm. Do you understand that?
Okay, I kind of get where you're going with that, but no, I disagree entirely.
Based on.
I disagree that the harm is being done by us propagating like their identity. I don't think that like them wanting to be identified as something else is actually causing any harm.
Yeah, but what if 70% of the planet, right, followed a various or let's just say, roughly 4 billion people or 5 billion or 6 billion people followed a certain set of religious ethical values. And part of that identity, which you affirm is a legitimate identity, is to not call these people by these preferred pronouns. There's very few of these people who demand to be called by the preferred pronouns. You would actually be affecting billions of people based on the few. And when I test your logic the other direction and say, well, what if this few was going to unalive themselves who happen to be Christians? You'd say for the greater good, we would have to let them do it. So tell me something, sir. In the reverse, why would it not be the case that Christians and Muslims and things like this shouldn't say, well, for the greater good, if you're going to unalive yourself, all right.
Andrew, why is it lying to use their pronouns? Why is it lying?
Well, whether it objectively is lying or not, you would have to agree with me that the idea from your perspective, from the idea from Christians and Muslims, et cetera, is that it is.
Yeah, whether or
not it is or not, it's irrelevant. It's not even relevant.
Think it's lying?
Why? Tell me why that's relevant.
Because it's not lying, and I can explain to you why it's not, and you might be convinced.
Yeah, but who are you arguing at that point? What are you arguing?
I'm arguing
what's the point of the principle of the argument? Let's just say I'm wrong, and I just believe it's lying. So what?
I can tell you why it's not.
Why
lying.
does it matter? Even if you were
because
to
then it wouldn't be
me,
harming you if you're
even
not lying.
if you proved it to me, if I still believe it's a lie, it doesn't matter.
I'm trying to convince you it's not a lie.
That's nice. I'm not here to be convinced whether it's lie or truth.
No,
I'm here to make the determination of whether or not it's a greater harm or lesser harm. If this many people believe it's a lie,
and you're concerned about the harm it's going to bring to Christians. You're concerned about the harm it's going to bring to Christians.
Well, not just Christians, Muslims too.
Whatever, they're going to lie, and that would harm them because they are going to be lying in their brain, right?
Yeah.
Correct. I can talk to you and tell you why you're not lying, so you would not be harming this person.
How would that contend with the argument, though?
Because what if you can't be harming yourself?
Hold on, fellas. Let's speak
You're
easy.
just assuming that you can convince all these people. What if you can't?
That doesn't contend with the argument.
That is perfect. That is a next step in the argument.
Okay, here.
I'd like to explain why it's not lying.
Will, just for the purpose of good faith.
Can hear speak
here we go. You ready? I'll show you. I grant your argument. Just for the sake of argument, I grant it that I was wrong. Now, can you contend with my argument?
Then now you agree it's not harming yourself by using their pronouns.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't contend with my argument.
No, but your whole argument is it's harming you, so you shouldn't use people's pronouns.
No. It didn't. It's not me. It didn't say me specifically. The entity, which is Andrew Wilson. So even if I grant this, even if I were to just grant it for the sake of granting it, it does not contend with the argument. Would you please contend with the argument, please, Will?
I guess I'm lost in what you're arguing.
Okay, here's my argument.
That was a part of
here's my argument, right?
Yeah.
There's way more religious people on planet Earth than there are people who are trans who want to be called by certain pronouns. Because that is the case. If all of those people are, if you're asking every single one of them to respect and affirm a thing they believe is a lie, whether it is or not, Will, they just believe it is. They just believe it is, Will. Then can you show me how it is that under the harm threshold, those people aren't being more harmed?
They believe it's a lie because they don't understand what gender identity is.
Who cares?
That's
why?
If they
it doesn't
understood
matter
reality.
Why. It doesn't matter why. That's not how the harm principle works.
Let's give William a chance now.
Will, it wouldn't matter why they thought it was a lie.
Brian said I had the floor.
We're gonna just give him a chance. Sorry, we're gonna put you on.
I believe the
time.
topic of this debate is there two genders? Not does everyone think there's two genders? Not what's everyone's opinion on if there's two genders? Is there two genders in reality? Not in the mindset of certain religious
people. Based off your argument,
that's
what matters is if everyone thinks. That's what
absolutely
matters.
not. That is not what I said at all. If you listen to any of my argument. You listen to any of my argument, gender identity exists in here in your mind.
Right,
it doesn't matter if anyone agrees with you or disagrees with you. It exists here, and you cannot take that away from me. You cannot take that away from anybody.
But why can you take away from me how I feel about yours?
I'm not taking away from you at all. You can believe anything you want about me.
Because
no, actually, to your point, Speakeasy, I think you would have a problem if somebody tried to do that to you, though, wouldn't you?
We do. They're called trans people. They're trying to do it right now.
You can't take someone's identity away. It's
what are they taking away from you?
No matter what you do, you cannot take someone's identity away. You can force them to change their gender expression. That would be horrible.
Searches?
That'd be horribly inconsiderate.
Now, Will,
you can force them to align with what anatomical sex they like, and that's also very unkind. But you can't take away their gender identity. That's untakeawayable.
Can you take away their religion?
No, you can do it in your bedroom.
Okay, so here's the thing. So here's the thing. If this is a category of the mind,
yes,
is lying a category of the mind?
Oh my God. Can you get to your point?
Is lying a category of the mind?
It's an interesting question. No.
Okay.
An interesting question that makes him sound like he's got the one up in this debate, but it has nothing to do with this.
So it's not. Well, actually, no, it does, and I'll tie it in just a few seconds. And you're gonna feel dumb, even though you should feel dumb anyway, because you haven't made a cohesion point. But anyway, what makes it not a category of the mind?
Because you can say things that are false objectively.
Okay, but objective means not dependent on mind.
Yeah.
So
that's why I said it's not a feature of the mind.
Okay, so when you say lie, you're saying that there's objective truth. There's truth which is not mind dependent.
Yeah, there's objective truth.
How would you determine that objective truth absent of mind?
You don't know what's objective truth.
So you couldn't determine what is objective truth?
No, but you can tell what's more likely.
So then that wouldn't be objective, though.
Statistics aren't objective?
No. Well, they are.
Of course they are.
If you're saying objective would mean mind independent. So statistics would be subjective.
Statistics are mind independent, Andrew.
They are?
Yes.
They don't need to be interpreted by mind?
Statistics are statistics. They exist independent of minds.
How?
Math exists independent of minds, right?
Does logic exist independent of minds?
No, that's different.
Well, what? I'm sorry. Isn't logic a mathematical expression?
No, mathematical expressions are a subcategory of logic.
Oh,
right? And
I didn't know that.
Math quantities exist independent of humans, right? So if quantities exist, then things can be grouped together without a human being there to group them together, right?
So math is mind independent, but not logic.
You changed my mind. Math is mind dependent.
Okay, math is mind dependent?
Yes, I'll give you it.
Oh, okay. So then how do you know what's objectively true then?
Because of measurements that are external.
But that would be independent of mind.
Yeah. That's
you just said math is mind dependent. That would be subjective.
Wait, measurements doesn't mean math.
Did you want to?
I'm sorry, what? How do you measure something without math?
You ever heard of a ruler?
What does a ruler use?
Numbers aren't math. Numbers isn't 2 + 2. Numbers is counting, right? There's a different
thing. I'm sorry. Are numbers a representation used mathematically to express something?
Numbers are measuring a distance isn't the same as calculating a distance, right? Those are two different concepts.
How do you measure something without math, sir?
Dude, I feel like we need way more joints in this for this to be a conversation.
I'm serious. Now I'm seriously confused. How do you measure a thing without math?
How do you measure math, bro?
I think a child can count without understanding math, right?
Yeah, but they're not doing math.
Exactly.
They're not measuring something.
Oh, perfect.
What are they measuring?
You can count without needing to understand math.
That's just mouth noises.
I love that you
That's mouth noises.
You can count the number of apples on my table.
Come on.
Wait, no, you're not. No. You can't count the number of apples on the table, right? Unless that's dependent on a mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then when we're talking about mind-independent concept subjectivity, you think truth itself
Wait,
is
so
subjective.
do you think vegetables actually
No.
have an objective
Well, okay,
like,
well then
concept of reality?
wait, hang on. Here's
No,
why this
for real
is.
though, Andrew. Like,
I'm going to answer the question. Let's finish our engagement real quick. The reason that this is so important is because if you say these are all categories of the mind, including lying, right? Then you can't even say that Christians are lying. I couldn't even say that they were lying or that trans were telling the truth, because these are just subjective categories based on your internal mindset. Like there's no real objective truth anyway, right?
So fundamentally speaking, Andrew, if we really want to fundamentally question the reality of the universe, yeah, we could be in the Matrix.
I'm not
Andrew.
trying to do that though. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Exactly what you're doing.
I'm not even trying to get into metaethics. I'm just trying to say,
no, it is.
If it is the case that, well, then the metaethics are starting with you by saying because it's a mind state, it's true. You would be the one making the first metaethical claim, not me. So if that's or metaphysical claim, that would be you. You would be getting into the meta first, not me. So what you're saying is this is true. That's a truth claim, right? So if that's the case, is it subjective? Are lies a product of the mind, or are they not?
Lies are product of the mind, yes. But
okay, well then you can't say that we're lying.
Let me finish my response. You let me. You gave me.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So, does objective truth exist? Yes. Are we going to be able to comprehend it with absolute certainty? No. Those are two different categories. So, although I can be very confident about something is true, can I say it's true with 100% certainty? No. Does that help?
Like truth apt, you mean?
I don't know what that is.
Truth like.
Not that it isn't fun.
You can't make the determination that something's 100% true or 100% false, but
That's
it's truth apt, like true enough, maybe.
Yes,
something like that.
Yes,
right. That's not exactly what truth apt means, but like close enough for what it is you're trying to express.
I would like to jump in here, guys.
What I'm trying to say is just this, right? And then I'll finish it here so that you can move it along, and I'll let you respond to it. What I'm saying is that if it is the case that you just believe Christianity is a mind state, and you believe transness, whatever that is, or gender is just a mind state, and you agree both are equally true by that categorization, which you've agreed, both are equally true. If lies are dependent on the same mind, which grants that these things are true, these can't be lies. These people can't be telling lies. They can't be telling a lie because based on their own mind state, it has to be true.
I agree with you on that.
Well, then what the fuck is, then from the harm principle side, I would have to be right because we just significantly outnumber trans people, bro. So they would be doing more harm.
More of you, so there's more. No,
there
but
would
the
have
harm
to be
is,
yes, more harm,
more
harm, yes.
I would say the harm is far less.
All right. Let's try to